Welcome to the Land Your Bet Show. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, bringing you a breakdown of Sunday NFL Week 14 action. We got lots of games on the slate, some great matchups, in fact, after a pretty bad Week 13 Sunday, to be honest. Bad bets by myself, I will be the first to admit. But I think we're going to get back on the horse here because we do have more reliable, more competitive games and more games to choose from after Thanksgiving stole some games last week. But yeah, we'll get right into it with some sides, totals, some looks at stuff to bet there, and then some player props, of course, as we roll on. Open with this quarterback showdown. Joe Burrow back. It caused a little bit of line movement here from +6 to +5.5. Also, T. Higgins is trending in, so that's a big deal for the Bengals after his concussion. The Bills might get a couple of offensive linemen back. So we've seen the total actually move up from 51.5 to 53.5 in this game. Definitely makes you like some overs here. Multiple defensive linemen are down for the Bills. It looks like Joey Bosa and A.J. Epinesa are not going to be able to go. Terrell Bernard, the linebacker, has also been missing practice. Trey Hendrickson, still no return in sight for the Bengals. We know their defense not very good up front. They have been good at the cornerback position. In fact, excellent. And the Bills don't have much to threaten you with on the outside. Joe Burrow, after a first half to knock off the rust, looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the game once again against the Ravens, a really good Ravens defense. So I think he can probably match points with the Bills and keep this thing high scoring. The total's a little too high for my taste, but it makes sense if you want to back the Bengals here. If the Bills are if their injury report doesn't look that good, two offensive linemen might come back here. Dawkins and Spencer Brown. That would be huge for the Bills because they were able to bully the Steelers last week. Really just shut down their offense, but I don't know if they can win at margin as much. Do that Bills thing where the wagon starts rolling at home and the rushing attack gets out of control. If they don't have those two big road raiders, if they do have them, gotta like James Cook even more. I mean, I like James Cook a lot here as far as the sheer volume and as a correlation play here. I'm using the Bills in a teaser for sure to get them down to money line. I do think they're going to win this game as good as Burrow is. I just don't think that Bengals defense can stop Josh Allen when it matters or can stop this rushing attack. And you look at Cook's game log, there's really no stronger correlation play, I think, in the NFL. It's like if James Cook is getting 20 carries, if he's getting 100 yards, the Bills are going to win. You cannot stop them. He has some dominant home performances this year, 27 for 114, 22 for 117, 19 for 108 against the Dolphins at home. And of course, didn't get going in two other home games against the Patriots and Bucks because those are the best, among the best run defenses in the league. They just absolutely shut it down between the tackles. Bengals pass defense, like I said, is playing better, but their run defense is still dreadful. I mean, 30th in run DVOA, just most yards per game, 32nd overall DVOA defense. And it's the Bills at home. It's cold weather in the Northeast. So it's a ground and pound game, man. I would consider going under on like Josh Allen passing yards and or touchdowns and just assume that James Cook is getting the rock over and over. And on the other side, I think Joe Burrow is going to be able to capitalize on an insanely low rushing prop. It is 4.5 yards, basically indicating Joe Burrow will not scramble once in this game. And I think he will. He's actually kind of sneaky athletic. Last year, when you have a much bigger sample size, he averaged 2.5 carries per game, 4.5 yards per carry on those. So basically one rush could get you there. Every visiting quarterback in Buffalo has gotten at least 5 yards rushing this year. Surprisingly, Mahomes was the lowest total, 1 carry for just 5 yards in that game where he was under constant pressure. Joey Bosa, maybe the best game of his career to lead that pass rush. The Chiefs offensive line was struggling. Bengals offensive line has been a lot better lately. And even if it's not, Burrow's pocket presence is so good. His ability to kind of slither through and then step up. And that's where you get those easy 5-6 yard rushes is when quarterbacks escape up the middle and there's just no one home against any sort of defense, man or zone. So definitely like this as an exploitable low option. Another big game down south for the AFC South lead here. We got Colts -1.5. Hasn't really moved. Maybe you see some -2s popping up right now because I think the general consensus from the market is you don't trust Trevor Lawrence to have back-to-back good games. He had a good game against the Titans. Kudos. That rushing attack that the Jaguars were leaning on, that really just shows a complete lack of faith in Trevor Lawrence from Liam Cohen. That got stymied by the Titans. And the Colts, that's where they've struggled lately. I would be a little concerned about them getting punished on the ground, but I think their rushing attack can also do some good stuff here against the Jaguars defense, which is a pass funnel defense, right? They depend on just completely shutting down your run, then forcing you into obvious pass situations. JT did get going against this team last year, and I mean, really got going. 34 carries, 177 yards, led to a overtime win at the end of last season. I think JT is going to get going regardless. This Colts team is just so well coached. They'll scheme him ways to get the ball in space, and he will make things happen. But really, it's about the other side of the ball, right? I mean, Indy is 12th in DVOA pass defense. They're not going to have Sauce Gardner here, the new acquisition, but underrated guys like Charvarius Ward, who's back in the lineup, like Kenny Moore, who's healthy in the slot. Those are going to be huge. Those guys, they can match up very well against Brian Thomas and Jacoby Myers. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to be able to get the ball to his receivers that consistently, but I do like his tight end, Brenton Strange, at a pretty vulnerable number in the 40s here for the receiving. He's been the key to this Jaguars offense. And really the only, if he was not playing, I think the Colts would kind of be a smash spot here, even on the road. But he's just fantastic. I was seriously underrated. He's number 2 among tight ends in PFF grade overall this season. Fantastic blocker. He's going to establish that edge, establish the run, and then leak out on some play action stuff and probably catch some deep balls. He's second among tight ends in deep target rate. He's third in yards per route run, 9th in ADOT. And the Colts allow the second most receiving yards per game to tight ends. So I think this is a better matchup for him against those linebackers that have struggled in coverage and against a defense that's kind of an interior funnel when they have good cornerback play on the outside. Seattle is visiting Atlanta, and this totals up just 1 point at the moment. I would look at an under here if betting the side or the total or a Seahawks teaser because it's popped down to 6.5 at points. And if you can time it right, you can get Seahawks just on the money line to pair with other favorites this year. The biggest concern is just the noodle-armed Kirk Cousins against this fantastic Seahawks defense that is very turnover hungry, very, very good on the road. I believe Mike McDonald is something like 11-1 in his last 12 road games. Seahawks defense, they're probably going to carry the day here. I worry about the Seahawks offense a little bit, though. Book might be out on Sam Darnold, where he was good against the blitz early, had the answers early in games and early in the season. I mean, kind of both ways. And we saw him kind of like pumpkin even in the second half of some of these games against the Texans a few weeks back when facing good defenses. Falcons with Divine Diablo back are a good defense again. Might get a couple other guys back as well. And the key is they blitz a ton. And now they're back home, which they only played one home game in the last 4. So they're going to be able to get some pressure on Darnold. They'll probably be able to copy the playbook from the Vikings last week since they know Darnold so much. And they really flustered him, and they really shut down JSN, really the first team all year to do that just by playing like a bit of cloud coverage, give him safety help. I don't understand how NFL teams were not doing this already. It's like, why would you be scared of any other Seahawks weapon? Just put a safety over the top of JSN, try to create pressure, try to force Darnold to go elsewhere with the ball. That's actually what the Rams did 3 weeks ago, led to 4 interceptions for Darnold, led to an under, I believe, in that game. Yeah, 44, it hit there. So if the Rams and the Seahawks didn't get there, I feel like the defense should be pretty solid here on both games at both sides of the ball. And Bijan might struggle to get his prop. It's 106.5 rushing receiving yards is the highest I found. I mean, it could get higher because Bijan, because we expect him to get a ton of touches with Kirk Cousins under center. But, I mean, there's only a 3-game sample so far, right? We saw the floor when Kirk Cousins stepped in there when Drake London was not playing, and we still don't know about London as of Saturday. He's going to be a game-time decision, it looks like. We know that the Falcons offense, prior to their nice little run here into easier matchups against the Saints and the Jets, who are below average, to say the least, that they averaged a full 1.5 yards less per carry when they didn't have London, when they didn't have that threat, that they dropped an absolute dud at home against the Miami Dolphins, who, since then have looked better defensively, but they're not as good as the Seahawks defense. The Seahawks defensive line is among the best in football, stopping the run. Might not be as good as like Denver creating pressure, but they really stop the run. They allow 83 rush yards per game. That's third best in the NFL. They're even better on the road. And I don't think they're going to allow much rushing. I mean, it's 65 yards just for the rushing. And then you're depending on explosive plays, and Seattle just does a really good job limiting those explosive plays and rallying to the football. They've got some of their linebackers back, and I think they will not let Bijan completely torch them for some of these long receptions and keep him under there. The Jets are up to a flat 3 here at home against the aforementioned Dolphins, who, frankly, I don't know if you believe they're any good. I mean, they've won 3 of their last 4. You see right there, they've all been at home or the game in Madrid, which they were lucky to win against a shorthanded Washington squad. And now they go to New Jersey, where it's going to be like freezing rain and 35 degrees. And I need to remind you of the Tua Tagovailoa stats when it's below 40 degrees. I can just remind you of the last time the Dolphins played in any sort of weather. It was in Cleveland. They lost 31-6, and Quinshon Judkins rushed 25 times for 84 yards. I believe Tua had 3 picks, including a pick 6 in that one. So maybe the Jets finally get some turnover luck here. The Jets have a huge special teams edge in this matchup, not just their kicker, Nick Folk, who's like basically been perfect, but also the return game has been prolific and several other areas in the margins where Aaron Glenn has done a good job. Like, I mean, everybody was piling on him early in the season. Now he has his team fired up, playing well. I mean, you could say the same thing about Mike McDaniel on the other side, but we've seen time and time again the Dolphins lay an egg in these cold weather games and just, fluctuate between being impressive and just being completely baffled. I mean, Tua in particular. I could just see Tua just making back-breaking mistakes in this one that would certainly give you the Jets to cover and possibly to win. And Breece Hall to get plenty of opportunities. I mean, he's one of the true workhorses in the NFL today, one of the few guys around 90% of the snaps. I mean, it's just him and Isaiah Davis, right? Braylon Allen's still not in there. And the Jets offense is trending up now at the point that they can give him valuable carries, not just give him the ball over and over and let him plod into a stacked box. I mean, you have to respect Tyrod Taylor more than Justin Fields. You have to respect Adonai Mitchell breaking out as a top guy. Potentially, his prop only around 50 yards. We'll see how he follows up his breakout game. John Mechie's been solid. Mason Taylor. Like the point is the Jets offense is at least scaring you enough, the passing attack, that you're not just going to stack the box against Breece, who in his last 2 has not had great efficiency, but that came against Baltimore and Atlanta. It's still getting 18 carries a game. And like I said, up to 90% of the snaps against Atlanta. Breece in Miami this year, 81 rushing yards at 5.8 yards per carry. Didn't get that many opportunities with Fields rushing a ton in that game too. Tyrod Taylor, I wouldn't expect to do as much rushing. His rushing prop is a little high. I expect more traditional carries. And the Jets' run blocking continues to improve. Their defense continues to improve. Dolphins are still 29th in rush yards per game allowed. And again, I cannot harp enough how important the weather is when handicapping this game. Last one to look at here is Washington at Minnesota. And totals at 42.5. Some picks for the bold here. Do you want to take an over in a game that involves J.J. McCarthy? Do you want to trust J.J. McCarthy to finally post a decent below average game, not just one of the worst games in NFL history? And I mean, let's give the kids some slack. Like, nothing but tough matchups, really. Chicago's defense now looks very, very good. So the fact that he didn't pull out that win at home, a little bit more understandable. Then he goes to Green Bay. He also had that game against Detroit where they won in Detroit. That's a tough defense. And he passed for 254 there. So this is by far his easiest matchup is what I'm saying. Washington is dead last in most passing categories, especially giving up deep balls. And then on the other side, Terry McLaurin is back. Jaden Daniels might be back. Mariota has been pretty good either way. If Jaden Daniels is back, I think you got to like the over here. I mean, he hasn't been as good this year, to say the least, but he's still going to drive more scoring. He's going to lead Dan Quinn to call a lot more 4th down attempts and not settle for field goals. I think Washington will have more success rushing if Daniels is in there, both him and getting guys like Chris Rodriguez going, who, by the way, is only about a 40-yard rushing prop. And if you do want to fade JJ McCarthy, you could just take Chris Rodriguez rushing stuff. I'd say by sheer time of possession, he's going to get there because the Vikings are just not going to have the ball. But I do like Zach Ertz here to follow up on his big game against Denver. Now 21 targets in his last 2 games. Terry McLaurin coming back in that last one seemed to unlock things as far as the defense having to respect the deep shot. You now got Debo, you got McLaurin, you got Treylon Burks making plays. And Ertz is the guy who's just going to capitalize over the middle. That's where the Vikings are more vulnerable because they blitz so much. They allow 9.6 yards per reception to tight ends, and their linebackers are often playing the run. They're aggressive. They're getting beat behind themselves. So I mean, and he's got good chemistry with Mariota. We've seen, of course, he's got chemistry with Daniels. He's just been ultra reliable as far as getting 4 catches in 5 straight, 40 yards in 4 straight, and his prop is at like 35.5. So, I mean, why are they giving you this value here? We're at the fast turf in Minnesota. Very good for passing attacks. And like I said, if McCarthy flops again, the Commanders are just going to have the ball constantly. There's going to be so many opportunities for Ertz to get this prop. Now, maybe if McCarthy does not flop, maybe you look very smart taking a Justin Jefferson prop because, man, this guy is beyond the squeaky wheel. He's squeaked until the wheel fell off, and now it's just sitting there sadly on the side of the road with his face in his palm thinking, can I get even serviceable quarterback play? So I think they're definitely going to try to scheme him some balls because there's already trade rumors floating around for the offseason about Jefferson demanding his way out of town if he's going to have to play with JJ McCarthy another season. JJ at least knows to target the guy. He's averaged 9 targets in their last 4 games together, caught about half of those. So I think, the way to play this is for Jefferson to catch 6 balls. It's plus 120 or better at different books. And that's the line they're trying to tempt you into that over. It might be a buy low spot. I mean, he's gotten at least 4 in each game with McCarthy. And like I said, those are all pretty tough matchups. This is a very easy matchup. And the Commies, they play zone at a top 10 rate. They also play middle closed zone. So it's going to be pretty easy for Jefferson to get wide open on these outbreakers. If you remember, those were a lot of the passes against Chicago and Baltimore that he was just wide open on, and McCarthy just sailed the ball. And it's just like, just hit him, man. Like, McCarthy, it's the NFL. It's a small sample. We know he has a larger sample in college where he can actually hit a wide open receiver. Now we're indoors, no wind. There was some bad wind in one of those games. I think he can get there. And if they do go man coverage, Jonathan Jones would line up against Jefferson, and he's just not very good, 93rd in catch rate. So let's take Jetta to get going a little bit here. Maybe a low ownership DFS play to round out the week. But that is all the time we have for you here today in the Week 14 breakdown. Hope you're getting something good out of this. Visit landyourbets.com for more info and analytical projections as well. And like and subscribe to the pages. We'll be coming right back for you all season and through the playoffs. Until we see you next, happy betting.